Welcome back, everyone, to Tale Talk, where we continue the great conversation. Today on First Impressions, we have Deonte back again for some One Piece episodes. How you doing?
I am excited to be back. I have so many strong opinions about these characters who have so much to say. So I'm ready for more.
Strong opinions are good. They make for good content.
Well, lucky for me, they make it very easy to have strong opinions about them. So,
all right. Yeah, so we took a little bit of a break. But we're back, and I'm excited for us to jump back into it, especially with all of the new One Piece stuff that is happening and coming out, like the live action, and the new animation, which is being worked on, and I think that's year and a half out. So
we'll catch up by then, totally.
Oh yeah. I mean, we might end up switching around and potentially, doing some other One Piece stuff with you to gauge how you feel about it. It might be kind of fun actually to do some One Piece. I don't know. I don't know what's better. What do you think's better? Live action before or after the original One Piece?
I feel like I haven't seen any of the live action yet. I know season 2 is either just coming out or is out now. I'm trying not to keep track of it. But I feel like if season 1 covers stuff that we've watched, we can watch it that way, because I want to see the anime first and then judge the live action in contrast to it. You know what I mean?
That's fair. I mean, my thoughts on the live action are that it's pretty decent. As far as live action adaptations go, like, I had my hopes in the gutter. I was very scared for it, but they don't take themselves too seriously, and it looks ridiculous. It does kind of look like some cosplay. People with wild hair have wild hair, all of that craziness. But that's One Piece, and they commit to it. They're not like, oh, this guy's hair is,
it's too much.
A number 3, which comes up. And so how are we going to do that? Nope. They just commit to it, and big old 3 wig,
Which I love, because I feel like there's been a wave of live action anime. And of course, it's been a thing for a while every now and then. But oftentimes there's kind of the pull of like, well, we don't want to make it too because it's going to be real people. And it's like, no, make it ridiculous. Just go all in. Go ahead and put a number 3 on top of my head. See what happens.
Yeah. So that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. I don't know. Maybe that's a spicy take.
If it is, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, and there was something else that I had just thought of that I wanted to bring up.
Well, I know there's the live action anime that's coming out. You mentioned that there's a reanimation that's going to be happening as well. One Piece is kind of having a redoing of everything, which is great for someone like me who's like, where do I jump in? And they're like everywhere. But I don't know what else it has coming out.
There's that new one, and I think the Attack on Titan studio animation. I don't know what they are, but I think they're doing it. So that'll be exciting.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I think if the demand is there, if the people riot for it in the streets, we can do a little bit of live action. See what it's about.
Yeah, we'll feel it out. I guess let's just let's jump into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or I do want to bring this up. We started this little podcast thing a while back. It was an idea I had for Tale Talk, because a lot of the times the conversations with my friends, like the ones that I really enjoy and go over the time that we have to talk about it, is when we're talking over some piece of media.
Mm-hmm.
And like just going over everything about it, whether it's characters, plot, how they did, I enjoy talking over stories, and that's what Tale Talk is. Where it's basically just having friends and talking about stories. But the other thing that I like, and I'm sure that everyone else likes, is living vicariously through another person, which is what the first impressions part is. It's all about you got a friend who's never seen that one crazy thing. Well, live vicariously through us. And actually, I think, D, you had an anime that you wanted me to get on, didn't you?
Yes. For probably the first time in history, I saw something that was popular, first of all, and I saw it before you. I'm normally the guy who has not seen anything ever. It doesn't matter how popular it is or anything like that, but there is this anime, Frieren, Beyond Journey's End, which I think is everything you will love as someone who loves stories, loves characters, and loves the depth that is below the flashy fight scenes. And don't get me wrong, we love a good fight scene, but I want to get you onto Frieren and flip the script and have you be the person that we're living vicariously through and seeing for the first time. So I'm hoping we can get that in down the pipeline alongside One Piece as well.
That will be a lot of fun. So yeah, let's see. Last time, it was so long ago, and I didn't listen to the episode again. But what do you remember up to thus far about the Straw Hat crew and where we are and your feelings towards everyone?
Yeah, current summary, there is this rubber boy who is clearly the author's favorite, who says, I'm going to be king of the pirates, and he's right about everything all the time, always and forever, without any thought given to it. He meets a pink-haired boy who's like, I'm going to be in the Navy, which I was like, okay, Luffy found his number one enemy. Turns out they're friends. I guess he decides to be friends with him. Don't know why. Whatever. It's cool. It goes. And then they make friends with Zoro, a green-haired guy with multiple swords. That man just says the more swords, the better. They're also friends with Nami, who keeps, like, appearing. And then eventually is just kind of like, I don't want to be a pirate, but I guess I'll hang around for a while. They meet Sanji, who is a chef and also a womanizer. They meet Usopp, who is a liar, but also I personally think Usopp has the most potential for growth. Usopp frustrates me as much as he makes me want to root for him. Something about him, they were cooking with him. And then they have Vivi, this blue-haired girl who I don't really know what her power set is, really. She's just kind of like, I have these spinning blades and I'm here. And it's like, okay, cool. And so they were going through the adventures. They were in the town where they had gotten ambushed, and then they had left the town with Vivi and went on their way.
Yeah, that's a pretty good summary of all of that. Another question for you on that, because this is part of the fun of the journey of One Piece is the crew interacting. How do you feel up till now? And we'll get into the specific episodes that we're doing. We're going to be covering a little bit of Helmeppo and Kobe's little arc, and then also Little Garden. How do you feel about the crew interacting?
Okay, Little Garden, I think, is a great explanation of a lot of my feelings on some of these things, so we'll get into that a bit later. But my rating and my concepts are, this is so early 90s anime where it's like, I need an empty-headed protagonist who likes to eat and fight and has this strange moral code that no one understands but everyone respects. We need girl. We need the Lancer, who is a guy who's like really powerful and maybe a prodigy of some sort, has like an edgy background. And we need a womanizer as well, which is Sanji. And then I think what gets me is Usopp is kind of the everyman that not all anime have. Not all anime has an everyman who... Because Sanji is like, I'll just kick concrete in half. And Zoro's like, I'll slash buildings in half. And Luffy's like, I'm indestructible. And Usopp's like, I'm a guy please help me. This hurts. Everything is just so real to him. So I really like that he's kind of the unique figure there. But I like some of the dynamics. It's so clearly 90s coded. And at first I was like, wow, this is very much a 90s anime. But then I had to think of like, this is probably one of the anime that inspired the other 90s anime that came after it to be this way. You know what I mean? Like, this is probably the revolutionizer in a way.
It definitely has a lot of impact, I think, in like anime culture in general. But it's also like, I totally understand what you mean about the whole 90s anime thing. I've been on a binge recently with my girlfriend on like Demon Slayer with the whole movie that came out and everything. And we've been watching some newer animes. And when you go back, there definitely is like you can tell.
Yeah.
Like the jokes, it's funny, this guy's really horny.
Yep. It's just, that's a guy. He likes women, and we all laugh at that. Personal opinions. I don't like Luffy because he's just the author's favorite. I don't like Sanji because he is a pervert. And I know 2 decades ago, those were probably like some of the favorite. It was probably Luffy, Sanji, and Zoro as top 3 favorites.
I'm excited to get more like kind of get into the series because my understanding is that those tropes become less as time goes on because the anime has been running for so long. So it's kind of morphed along with its as it's developed. So it's kind of, I suppose you could say, stayed along with the more current anime trends as well as it morphs because it's been running so long. So like that's not always the whole definition of their character. So like I still like Sanji. Sanji has an interesting story and motivations and things, but you don't get into that for quite a while. And like you don't get into Luffy's true character in his heart until he has, some setbacks that he can't just power through. That type of thing, which does come. It will come. So let's get into the episodes for this.
Yes.
We'll start with little Kobe Helmeppo, their little mini saga that we got going on. It was just 2 episodes, and we follow through Kobe and Helmeppo's journey through the Marines and eventually getting a mentor. What did you think of their little story?
Honestly, I actually think that this little 2-part is, up until that point, has been my favorite arc. As I don't know if that's, from the look on your face, that's spicy. That's that's a strange take, but I really do think that little 2-part was kind of my favorite arc because, one, Kobe is this young character who we start off with just like a little dream sequence of him being like, I'm a lieutenant or whatever. And I genuinely, it got me for a second. I was genuinely like, there is no way this man made it up the ranks that fast. There's no way. I don't believe this show anymore. And then he wakes up from his dream and I'm like, oh, they got me. Oops. I'm dumb. That was on me. But I think what's so interesting about this is Kobe and Helmeppo are very clearly like they don't get along well. Kobe is here because he wants to be here. Helmeppo is here because it was this or like basically jail or execution or whatever because of his father. So you have characters who are in the same place for opposite reasons. And when Helmeppo's dad shows up because they're like, oh, we're doing a prisoner transfer, they have a reason to bond. And it kind of gives this idea of Kobe, I don't really understand why he wants to be a Marine that bad, but I understand how much of an impact Luffy left on him of like, if you want something, you got to go work for it. And he's showing that he's not just this frightened kid anymore. He's going to work hard, even when things get scary and tough and rough. And I think what's interesting is when this whole situation goes down, El Mepo's dad essentially kidnaps El Mepo and uses him as a hostage, and Colby goes after him. Huge violation, huge wrongdoing. The Marines are like, okay, like you two are done for. You shouldn't have done this when they get him back. And I also think that it's interesting that El Mepo's dad doesn't kill them because he's way stronger than them. It's basically a kid and a rich boy. But essentially, El Mepo's dad just throws him back in the water. El Mepo and Kobe get back on the Marine ship, and they're like, we got to get rid of him. And their mentor figure, this like huge Marine guy who's got a puppy dog head. He does not have the head of a puppy. He wears a puppy's head. If you've seen it, you get it. If not, sorry. He essentially is like, oh, we got to take him to headquarters. We'll take him in, doing the whole like, they're going to be my mentee thing. And then when they get to the headquarters, they're just having this back and forth struggle of like, we made it here and it is hard. How do we keep enduring in a hard thing? How do we keep enduring when it's hard? How do we not give up? Because El Mepo wants to keep giving up. And Kobe's like, no, we can't give up. Until El Mepo's like, you know what? You're right. I don't want to do this hard work anymore. So ironically, I'm going to work really hard to become someone who's so important that I don't ever have to work hard again. And I'm like, El Mepo, yeah, I get that. Like, I also...
The American dream.
The American dream. I don't want to work hard, so let me work so hard that I get to become important. I'm going to work really hard, really quick to become so important that no one will ever let me work hard again because I'll be so famous. Yeah, I get that. I want that too. Don't we all? And then... you know, their secret kind of gets out. Kobe's secret gets out that he's friends with Luffy, who is this pirate with a giant bounty. And they get taken out on this beach. Their mentor is like, I'll keep an eye out for Luffy. You guys have shown your resolve after he beats them up for like 5 hours straight or something crazy. And it is just a nice little story of this kid, Kobe, who says, I want to work hard. I've decided to commit to my dream. And El Mepo, who says, I don't want to work hard. And both of them being able to find the middle ground, shake hands, and be like, we're friends. And I think that that's a really nice, quick, and important story. I think if they tried to make it any longer, it would be bad. I still don't think that either of them should aspire to be in the Navy. Terrible, terrible dream. Horrible dream. But hey, even good people can do bad things. So that's my initial take on the episodes.
I quite like all of those takes. It's pretty good. And I think like I'm excited for you to see more of their story because that's kind of a running thing with One Piece is like it's almost I don't want to say like every character you come across is going to come back or be involved in the world, but there's a very good running theme that like they're still off doing things. And so they definitely return and it'll be fun to watch for you to watch that whole progression and that theme of Kobe having a little bit of a struggle because he met Luffy and Luffy made him want to be a Marine but Luffy's also a criminal and now he's a Marine. That gets, you could say it gets a little stronger.
Yeah, I thought it was also interesting kind of, first of all, just coming back to Kobe at all, because I was like, they could have just written him off when they did and let that be it, of like, that's just the first person that Luffy impacted, and maybe give him like a little cameo scene in the future if there's this big grand crescendo of a story. But the fact that we spent 2 episodes with Kobe kind of lets me know of like, he's important enough that we're going to keep looking at him probably every couple of arcs or whatever. We're going to go take a look at Kobe, which leads me to think, what happens when Kobe and Luffy finally meet again? Because the longer we go without the meeting, the bigger Luffy's bounty gets and the more powerful Kobe gets, like in rank. You can only get so high up in the ranks before you running into a very powerful and important high bounty pirate means you got to do something. And Kobe's influence from Luffy is to pursue his dream of being in the Navy. So does Kobe meet Luffy, and is it like, oh, hey, thank you for teaching me to pursue my dream, you're under arrest? Like, you know what I mean? There is that clash of, like, at the end of the day, is Kobe more loyal to Luffy or to the Navy? Because the only reason he's in the Navy is because Luffy inspired him. How does that work? So
I'm so excited for this, honestly. Like, you're starting to get, this is just the smallest little inkling, the smallest little piece of what makes people love One Piece is there is these little things where it's like, oh, that's interesting. What happens when, and it starts like, it requires a whole lot of setup because you have to see from the beginning, and then you follow along with these characters for so long, and those conflicts and the story and the character development actually starts to become problematic and like more real and like deep. And that it's a little, those are just one of those little things.
I think that's also why I think this was my favorite little mini arc, because up until now the story has been a lot of Luffy gets to a place and he meets a friend that he's like, you will come with me, but the friend has a tragic backstory, so Luffy punches it. And that's been that's been every island basically, I think, except for like, but like what was it, the one with the lion? But wasn't that also, there was like a lion and like clown people, the dog's house got burnt down.
Oh yeah.
I think
that
that's
was with Buggy, the first time Buggy came in.
Yeah, I think that was the first time that this crew did not have a person who they met and then whose problem they had exposited to them and then they punched. But even then, like, it was kind of the dogs. You know what I mean? They just didn't take the dog with them. That's the difference. That was the first time that they didn't take someone with them. So I think this little mini arc was so impactful because I was like, oh, this is the first time that this is not set up for someone to be something. This is a reminder or kind of a pushing forward. So I think that's why it was so cool. And you're right, of like, if this story is as grand and as big in scope as you've told me it's going to get, then it makes sense that, yeah, we got to spend 50 hours or 50 episodes or 50 hours introducing you to, here are the people that are going to be on this little boat. You're going to have to really learn to love them all deeply if you're going to want to watch them for however many episodes. I don't know. They just finished season 1 of the anime. So it's like, you know, super casual.
That was so wild.
Season 1's over.
All done. Yay.
Good job, season 1. We'll get around to season 2 later.
Yeah. Okay. So going back a little bit, we're just about to finish up, I think, with this little mini arc.
Yeah.
What do you know of their mentor so far, Vice Admiral Garp? Because my knowledge, because we've taken such a long break from this, I don't remember what you know and what you don't know. So
yeah, I know he wears a head of a puppy. I know he takes a slash to the chest from El Mepo's dad, and he doesn't even realize he got hurt, which power scales him pretty high up there. You know what I mean? Because Axe Hand Guy was such a big deal for Luffy and Zoro to have to fight. This Axe Hand man gives a direct slash onto Garb. And Garb wakes up and is like, oh my gosh, he attacked someone? Whoa, I didn't know.
Garb,
I've been...
like the fish. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. But like, that man is very clearly kind of like an older mentor, a wise, powerful old man type figure. I don't know anything about him lore-wise. If they have said anything, it went over my head, to be honest, or I didn't know him yet to connect it to him. But I know that he is a pretty big deal. He is a vice admiral. He's taken in these two, and he is running a tight ship back at the capital.
Okay. Good stuff. Whew. Man, look, I gotta tell you guys, I didn't have as much energy when I started this, but now that we're getting into it, I'm like, ooh, Yes.
Yeah, you're being reminded of your love of One Piece. We're getting
Oh yeah.
I
Getting into it.
I okay, I just need to say the arc that we're about to go into next, like the next couple of episodes with this island thing, I think that really solidified a lot of my opinions about these characters. I'll just say that much before
Solido.
I feel like I watched these episodes and I was like, okay, got it. We're good. So I will let you go into them. But yeah, I did like this little 2-part series. I think it was really cool. I think I needed to see that to kind of be like, oh, I see what the appeal of One Piece is. Once the characters are established and then we get to see them interact, I would have never imagined those two characters, Amepo and them like interacting. And once I did, I was like, oh, I see how you could do this for a long time. Good.
Yes. And I think strong opinions about the crew is going to be, it's going to be fun to dig into because I don't think I did. I was very much still, I think at this point when I was watching One Piece, I think I was still very much just kind of background story, like I didn't have like I hate that person.
Yeah, I think for me it's just formed so quickly because I love stories. And when you first introduce a character, it is so important to do it well. You know what I mean? There's such an intentionality to it that I'm quick to be like, the author is trying to communicate something to me. I'm okay with letting them have my emotions to play with it. If you want me to feel strongly about a character, I'm going to feel strongly about them. And you can change my mind later. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But
Totally.
I'm just into it. But we will see.
Okay, so we follow the crew. They are arriving at a new island. I believe this is where their log pose was pointing, right?
Yeah.
So they get off. They're running out of food. They need to go restock up and everything. And Nami and Usopp stay on the ship because they're scared.
Mm-hmm.
And it continues. So
yeah, the fact that side note, real quick, the fact that we broke up the team the way that we did of Luffy and Vivi went off to adventure together, I was like, oh, I guess that makes sense. Luffy needs more Vivi time. And then Zoro and Sanji kind of went off together, but not like together. And then left Nami and Usopp back on the ship, which I still think makes so much sense because Nami and Usopp are the most human characters. And I mean that by durability, strength set, all that jazz. They are the most human characters. Why would they want to jump off on this island where it's like, yeah, our log post needs to reset here? That doesn't mean I need to get off my boat. I'm going to stay here.
Yeah, that's a very keen insight there because I think that's also just continues throughout is like as everyone gets stronger, even though they also get stronger, they just still continue to be like, y'all are superhuman.
Mm-hmm.
I am squishy.
Yep.
Stop it.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, they went off, found food, and then of course, Zoro and Sanji get into a little bit of a tiff as they're competing with each other. What else? We don't have to necessarily break it down every single specific episode. What were your thoughts in general for the first couple? As the story unfolds. How are you feeling? You said you had some solidification of characters. So where did that come from?
Yeah. So just starting off early, we get those characters running around and then these giants appear and start making some havoc and chaos for them by just existing. I think what really got me was Vivi and Luffy went off together. Luffy started acting like Luffy and was playing with these giant like brontosaurus things. And Vivi's like, oh my gosh, Luffy, don't be so reckless. And I'm like, girl, you got on his boat. Did you not know who he was? And then you got off the boat and ran around with him. You're like, oh, it'll be good to stretch my legs. You know who Luffy is. You know what he's about. So I'm not don't feel sorry for you that this is what happened. Um, but I think, you know, they interacted with one giant and kind of became his friend. And then saw, what is it? Usopp and Nami, another giant came over to them and like cut off a T-Rex's head and was like, here's some meat. Do you want to come eat with us? And they're like, let's just play dead. Does not work. They get taken, obviously. I thought it was kind of interesting that Zoro and Sanji's dynamic seems to very quickly be evolving and has been evolving into this competitive thing where it's kind of like, what's interesting about them is they can't have a competitive nature with Luffy because Luffy does not care enough. Luffy does not care about social constraints enough to be a rival. And Usopp is so scared, terrified, cowardly that if Zoro were like, oh, let's see who can kill the bigger dinosaur, Usopp would be like, you win. Goodbye. I'm going to go back to the ship. So these two kind of default into the 90s machismo rival trope, which I think is so interesting of like, it fits for them because I couldn't imagine any other two people doing it on the crew because they're not going to let the girls do it, obviously. But when those two are alone, Sanji loses his kind of like girl obsession and Zoro kind of loses his too cool attitude and they just become like meathead bros. And I think that is the most realistic thing that I've seen in these character dynamics so far of like, yeah, you get two dudes together in a room and they share a brain cell and an emotion. That makes perfect sense. That, yeah, 100%. I actually like that for them. That makes me like Sanji more. And I didn't know I could like Zoro more, but that makes me like Zoro more. I like that they are just dumb dudes together. I'm like, those are good friends. I love that for them. They'll be in each other's weddings.
I fully agree, and that is one of their best traits that they have with each other, and the dynamics between the crews like that they have are part of the fun of it. Is like every person might have like a specific dynamic with another person when they're alone, and going back to like you talking about how they separated people, there's oftentimes you'll have these two go off, these three go off, and then you see like the unique dynamics between each individual crew member or friend of the week.
Yep.
You know, also going back to something you were talking about earlier, I remember in the past episodes us talking about how you kind of thought Luffy was a little dumb and didn't like him because he's the author's favorite. He just does what he wants, right?
Yes.
I thought it was interesting when I was watching the first couple of episodes that Vivi essentially points that out to Nami on the ship.
Yeah.
Where like they're just being dumb. The crew's just being dumb. And she's like, hey, guys, we got to be serious. Like, what are you doing? And she says that to Nami and she's it's just how they are.
Yeah. I really did appreciate that of like, because it felt like I was going crazy of like, these people follow this guy into essentially like small scale war. And I'm like, do they not understand that Luffy is like, don't get me wrong, you can be dumb and still be likable and have all these traits and whatnot. But I'm kind of like, I feel like they're following Luffy and Luffy's not giving me enough of a reason to be like, I want to get on a boat and abandon my life and follow you. You know what I mean? And I think it progresses in that way of Vivi's presence is not to be the girl or to be the lancer or to be the everyman. She's kind of like the leader trainer. Like she's kind of whipping Luffy into shape and being like, Luffy, hey, you have people following you. I don't know why, but they're here. And if you want to keep them, you need to be less dumb. And I like that she is doing that as we find out more and more about her and her backstory and like what she's about. She is unintentionally just such a good leader at heart. And let me clarify this. I think Vivi is a good leader at heart. I think Luffy is supposed to be a good leader at heart. But I think the difference between the two is Vivi's actions show that she is a good leader at heart, and Luffy's story revolves around people looking at him as if he is a good leader at heart. I don't know if that's a spicy take or whatever, but like Vivi does things that shows she is a good leader, and no one points out that it's about her being a leader. Like it's not like a continual like, oh, she's such a wise, smart leader. That's why she attacked that person in this way. She just does it. You know what I mean? And I love that about her, and I see it rubbing off on Luffy in little ways.
I've actually thought about this in an interesting way, because the Straw Hat crew, they're not a typical pirate crew, right? Mm-hmm. And we feel that. They're goofy, they're weird, and they're silly, and like their captain's dumb sometimes, and it's like, I think that idea, like, oh, why are you following this guy off into the abyss? Mm-hmm. Kind of, I think you might have it a little bit backwards, because the crew doesn't follow them. The crew isn't like, Luffy, yes, we're going to accomplish your dream. What happens is Luffy is going out, and he is a method for these people to also accomplish their dreams. They're not following Luffy in the same sort of leader sense, let me charge into the darkness with you. They're like, I mean, okay, I can go with you. And you'll very, very rarely see Luffy take like a serious captain position. These are my orders, go do them. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes it's the other way around, or it's not even like they're doing orders, but the crew is leading Luffy sometimes.
Yeah.
Where they're like, hey, we need to go get food. And he's like, all right. And it's less of a top-down crew structure and more of a, what's the word I'm looking for?
Like more of a horizontal egalitarian.
Yeah, it's a much more horizontal and egalitarian version of a crew than you see even in One Piece or a lot of other media about pirates.
I do agree with that, and I think you're hitting the hammer on the head of, when I look at this anime, I'm like, Luffy's obviously the leader because he's a protagonist and he's the guy who everyone keeps calling captain. But there's a difference between in authority and an authority, I-N authority versus A-N authority. In authority is a position. If you're the president, you get the powers of the president. It has nothing to do with your character or anything. It's just, I hold the title, I hold the pen, da-da-da. An authority, A-N, is socially distributed. It is, we listen to Big Mama because she's the one who's been living the longest, and we know that she knows what she's doing. She's proven her wisdom through action. Luffy is captain in authority. He has a title of captain. But time and time again, even just so far, like we're less than 100 episodes in, and I have yet to see him give a real order that matters. It is normally other people giving the orders of who sets the sails, who does this, who's getting the food, who's doing that. If I did not know Luffy was the main character, I would look at the ship and I'd be like, oh, Luffy's the kid. He's the mascot of the group. You know what I mean? Like, I'd be like, Nami's probably the actual leader because she's actually guiding the ship on where to go. You know what I mean?
And I wanna put forth a small argument here.
Ooh.
That might make Luffy a better captain than most of the other captains in the One Piece universe, because he isn't just taking it and being the captain. He's an idiot. He knows he's an idiot. So he's not going to be like, oh, Sanji, give me food. And Sanji's like, no, we don't have enough. And he's like, no, give it to me. That's an order. He's like, yeah, come on. And so he lets each person take charge in their area of expertise where they are in authority. Sanji knows food.
Yeah.
So he is in charge of food and his orders go when it comes to food. Nami knows how to navigate. Mm-hmm. We're not going to have... Even though Zoro is the, first mate, second in command, he's not going to be making direction decisions. He's going to be like, okay, Nami, you handle all of that.
Yeah, they don't even get that far. Nami just tells them what to do.
Yeah. And so I feel like Luffy might be setting that first precedent of, this is a team, not a like not a military term that I'm looking for where I'm giving all the orders.
Yeah,
So that's just a little argument.
no, because I think you're right. You know what I mean? Like, if Luffy were competent and everything else was the same, I would be like, he's an amazing leader. He lets everyone lead in their own capacity. He's like, directions go to the direction lady, the food goes to the food guy. Da, 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 da. If he were competent, I would be like, this is the best pirate crew. It's probably the only good pirate crew. His competency is not. Oh, yeah. I think your argument is valid. I think Luffy, in spite of his stupidity, sets the groundwork for a really good team because even in his stupidity, he understands Nami runs the directions. I don't ever even ask to question her authority. I trust her authority. Yeah, his stupidity might get in the way of some things, but his stupidity does not lead him to stop people from running their part of the ship or change that system to then be a top-down kind of, I give the command, you guys do what I say the way that I say type of thing. He doesn't hinder in that way. That's valid. I like your argument. That's valid.
Thank you. And yeah. We'll see a bit more. Man, we need to watch more.
Yeah.
And get further. Okay, let's keep going. We got more to get through. I want you to see all of it.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. I'm sure the more that we watch, the more we're gonna go back. So, I will let you proceed.
Okay. So we continue on. Zoro, Sanji doing little things. Luffy's being an idiot. Vivi's noticing Luffy's being an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
And we continue further, and some problems arise with Baroque Works. That's right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do you have more to say on the arc as we get further on? Do you have more opinions, or
I think there's a little bit of a plot contrivance here of like Baroque Works being here. You know what I mean? There's a little bit of like wow. These two giants on this island actually have like such giant bounties, and Baroque Works happens to be here when Luffy and them get here. There's a little bit of like a plot contrivance there, like it's convenient, but I think it's very forgivable because the thing about story and when it comes to conveniences, if the convenience makes it harder for characters, we tend to forgive it more because it's creating plot. If the convenience gets characters out of situations, we're kind of like, oh, well, that was bad writing. And so I think this is a forgivable convenience of like, they got to this island, Baroque Works is here, and they're looking for the giants. And also, the Straw Hat Pirates are around, so there's some more to execute on. And I think it actually creates more opportunity, obviously, because if they weren't there, the Straw Hats would just sit around and be like, oh, our log post needs to reset for 100 years. We'll just sit with these two giants and watch them fight each other for 100 years. Show over. We're all going to die of old age. You know what I mean? Like the Baroque Works needed to be there in order for the crew to be able to get off the island, because when we see in Sanji's aspect, Baroque Works is kind of their ticket off the island, and they have to fight and work for it. So they are both the obstacle and the key, which I think is a good way to do it. It didn't feel bad. But I think Baroque Works being there and them not having a character who they're going to put on their ship and sail off with lets these characters kind of bounce off of each other. Like, we get to see Vivi and Luffy together. We get to see Nami and Usopp kind of have another moment similar to what they had on the roof when Usopp was, doing his little sniper thing. So this island really is more about giving these characters an ability to bond with each other, because like you said before, if everyone's going to be going on different teams all the time, I need to know that Sanji can have a conversation with Usopp. You know what I mean? Like, I need to know that Sanji and Usopp look at each other and have some amount of camaraderie and care for each other. And it's not just everyone's friends with Luffy and Luffy is friends with everyone. It's like, do Zoro and Sanji have a relationship? Do Zoro and Vivi have a relationship? Do Vivi and Usopp have a relationship? You know what I mean? This arc really gives meat to a lot of those bones of like, here are characters you probably haven't seen talk to each other much at all. Let's get them to really talk and interact and show why they trust each other's backs in these dangerous waters. So I think that was very interesting and helpful. But I also think the introduction of these two giants as the targets of Baroque works and also as their own unique characters fighting against one another is interesting. But to go into the Baroque works thing, I think it was a good introduction of like, hey, here are these characters. The dudes have numbers, so we can kind of get a power scaling. You know what I mean? Of like, number one's better than number two, two is better than three. The women just get nicknames after like special calendar days.
Well, that's interesting. I didn't notice that it was only the females that get calendar names. I think that no, they do. They say that, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Do they?
They say it in this adventure, like on this island. They talk about how Vivi explains it and breaks it down.
Right.
Of how it's like, hey, the numbers do this. The women are these special names. She explains it near kind of the end of the island, but
An interesting point, bringing up and kind of tying back into what we were talking about with a horizontal power structure as opposed to a top-down power structure. Baroque works is the complete opposite.
Yeah.
On that end, even down to numbering the people in charge. That like this is very obviously top-down structure as opposed to a horizontal power structure where it's not like number one navigator, number two navigator,
yeah,
or you know, like.
And it also plays into, which I thought was very interesting for an anime in the 90s, of they number the men and then they just give women holiday names. Holiday names, you know, holiday, holy day, meaning names that are, holidays are supposed to be days that are like holy, they're separate, they're special. You treat them special in a very weird way. And I think it reflects against the Straw Hat crew. When you look at the Straw Hat crew, Nami and Vivi are not looked at as these like damsels in distress who can't do anything. Sanji might treat them that way, you know, on occasion as like part of his like pervy jokey side. But like Nami being in danger and Vivi being in danger is not more important than Usopp being in danger and Zoro being in danger. They are equal members of the team. And I mentioned it earlier, if I didn't know that Luffy was the main character and I looked at this crew, I would think that Nami is in charge because Nami is the one intelligently guiding the crew. Even as someone who's not the chef, she is the one intelligently guiding the crew to where they need to go. And it makes sense. She's not just like pulling powers out of nowhere. She's worked for these things and it makes sense. So the Straw Hat crew is this very egalitarian, equal, everyone has their role and everyone has their place. One is not better than the other. Structure where the men and the women are equal. Whereas for Baroque works, we're numbering the men and valuing them to have them compete against one another of like, one of them even says how they wouldn't be sad if another got taken out. I think it was number 3 who was like, if number 2 gets taken out, oh, well, that just means I get a promotion. The men are taught to compete with each other on a number value basis. They are taught that one another is a competition. And then the women are just given titles. And it's like, yeah, you're just the assistant to the numbered guy. So it's like a tier within a tier of like the men are top down 0 to whatever number. And then the women are just the assistants to the men. So the women are less valuable than the men as well. So it is that difference of this is a system where men are taught to compete against one another. Women are taught to just be the side pieces versus Luffy and the Straw Hats coming in and just being like, yeah, we're just here. We're all equally here.
You know, what's interesting about that too is like that almost has to be an intentional choice by the author because we've seen pirate crews that are led entirely by females. Like in the very first pirate crew we meet, it's
Big Mama
led by a female, and like So having that distinction does seem like it is intentionally saying something about Baroque Works as an organization, and that's interesting to me. I did not pick that up on my first watch through.
Oh, you know me.
So
I'm always looking for those little go ahead and tell me something about society. But no, I do agree of like, yeah, there have been pirate crews where there is a pirate crew led by a woman. So clearly it's not as if like pirates are misogynist or whatever. Like every single faction has their own structure and system and their own understanding of how they want to run and do things. You know what I mean?
yeah. So that's very interesting. I like that. I like that point out that you did.
Thank you. I tried my best. But yeah, I did notice that about Baroque Works of kind of like there is this cutthroatness. And we see in the entire episode, it's like anyone can kill anyone at any time. There is no camaraderie. There is no caring for one another. There is no helping one another. It is very much you do what number 0 says. That order comes down. And if you can get someone else above you number-wise out of the way while doing it, you're a better man for it, specifically.
Yeah.
Specifically the better man for it.
So that's good. That's a good point. I also want to touch on something. We are getting closer to our time.
I know, right? And we're barely touching the island.
I know. Oh, it's always funny. It's just like DMing right now, where I'm like, we're gonna get through all of this content, and then
nope. They spent all their time at the store.
I wanted to touch on Usopp seeing the giants battle.
Oh my gosh. Okay. We got to fit this into this episode. The two groups both saw these giants. These giants are fighting. They don't even remember why they fight. They fight every time the mountain explodes. And it's a friendly fight, but also kind of to the death, but not really to the death, but also like, it's kind of like a brothers at arms spar, but it means something. Like it fight, but it means something. I noticed right away, the two groups are a boy and a girl sent off. They look at these giants. The boys love the giants and immediately understand everything about their code of conduct and fight style without any of it being explained to them. And both of the women of these groups are like, you're dumb. Again, I think that's like, that is an intentional situation where we are mirroring these giants of both of the giants get a boy and a girl. The boys are so into it. And what's interesting is you get the most empty-headed boy, Luffy, who's all about fighting and food. Of course he gets it. But then you get Usopp, who looks up to this and is like, you're my master now. I'm training under you. And I think that speaks to Usopp's drive to follow Luffy, because Luffy doesn't look at the giant and go, you're my master, train me. Luffy looks at the giant and says, I get you. In a sense, Luffy is saying we are the same. Luffy is putting himself on the level of the giants when it comes to like our understanding of morality. And Usopp looks up to them. And I think that's part of Usopp's insecurity. Usopp continues to look at himself as less than the people around him, even though Luffy would look at Usopp and say, we are a crew. We are equals. And so the way that Luffy and Usopp look at the giants informs us about Luffy and Usopp, but also informs us about their relationship to each other. If Luffy looks at Usopp as an equal, Usopp looks at Luffy as a man above him. And I think I mentioned this before of when are these things kind of going to come to a head of what is that going to look like? Because Luffy is the captain. But I think it is interesting also that Nami and Vivi are both like, this is dumb. Like, why are we even doing this? This is really stupid. But Nami says it's stupid in a way that's like, this is dumb, let's walk away. Vivi looks at this as, this is stupid, people are going to get hurt. So even Nami and Vivi have something spoken about them when it comes to their interactions with the giants. Nami is very much still a bit of that thieving, in it for myself kind of mentality. She's expanded herself to be her crew because she's like, Usopp, let's get out of here. But she is still very much like, there's the other who I need to protect myself from and win. And then there's the me who needs to be, I need to look out for myself. Vivi is very much, I'm looking out for the betterment of other people. I need to make sure that everyone else around me is safe and good at all points, even if I've just met them. And that is such a difference in their dynamic of who they are. And yet those two are still really good friends. So I think who is sent to the Giants and in their pairings and how that speaks to each other and themselves is just very interesting. I thought that was very well done. I did think it was really stupid that the thing that they admired is like the Giants fight every day and they don't remember why. And Luffy and Usopp are like, whoa. I was sitting there with Nami and being like, y'all are dumb. Go home. Please stop. Like, this is, get on your boat. Just sail anywhere. It doesn't even matter. Just figure it out. Figure it out later.
I like that take. I wanted to specifically kind of dive into because it's a little bit, if I remember this correctly, a little bit of a character developmental moment is Usopp sees the Giants. Now, yes, you can claim, you can talk about what this says about their character, specifically him admiring it, but I don't think it was just them fighting for no reason. It was them being brave and fighting, and he says that that's how he wants to be. Yeah. He wants to be a brave warrior, but specifically of the sea, and so he is inspired by their bravery in combat. Even when one of them gets poisoned, and then, continues to fight because that's what you're supposed to do as a warrior. And that touched him. And we should keep an eye out to see if that theme continues through and if that changes him at all in later stuff.
I do think I'll say this one more thing that I'll slide in. It's funny that everyone kept trying to, Usopp kept saying like, I want to be like him. And everyone's like, a giant? And Usopp's like, no. It is not the physical thing. Like, it's not the physical thing that he's admiring. It is that inner code of conduct. But I think what's interesting is Usopp was so moved by this internal piece of these giants, their bravery and whatnot. They don't even remember what they're fighting for. And I think what intrigued me about that aspect is Usopp has this romanticization. He romanticizes the idea of the brave warrior. Even when the brave warrior standing right in front of him is like, I don't even remember why I'm doing this. Because Usopp's entire life has been cowardice, running away. He has not known what it means to have depth to himself. He has not understood what it means to stand up for anything. So even just the immediate perspective of someone standing up for something, someone having the aesthetics of bravery, is enough for him to say, I want to devote my life to you. You're my master. That moves him so strongly. And I'm not saying that the giant is not brave or anything like that. You know what I mean? There are multiple things working here at once. But I do think it's very interesting that Usopp sees bravery and says, I need that. I haven't had that. He looks at it like fresh water to a dehydrated man in the desert. And he's like, I need that in my life. I need to have that. And so I think it's very cool that he wants it. I still do agree with Nami in the sense of like, Usopp, wrong guy. Figure out someone who remembers what's going on. Like 100% on Nami's side. But I do get you of like, this is a pivotal moment of, because Usopp's declared already that he's like, I want to be brave. I want to find my, my dad and all that jazz. But this seems to be a moment where he's like, someone's putting their life on the line. I'm down to do that. Teach me. It's more than just a declaration of him on the rooftop with Nami of like, I want to, face the consequences of my action in this one moment against the guy who knew his dad. This is him saying, this is more than just an in the moment thing. I want my life committed to this. So we've seen him go from, I'm scared, I'm running away from everything, to I'm scared, but I'm going to face the consequences of my actions and own up to my words and not just run and hide and lie, to now, I'm scared and I want to face that and change myself to be a brave man. Like it goes from little to bigger to big, from hiding to instantaneous to long term. I very much agree with you.
Yes, that was what I wanted to point out and kind of touch on is like, it's a little thing, and it's not gonna I don't know, maybe in some other animes it might be an immediate change where it's like, well, he's brave now.
Yeah, I'd hate that.
But But we'll keep an eye out for how that affects him. But we are running out of time.
Yes.
And we didn't. I feel like we still probably have a little bit of Little Garden to get through, so we might kind of push that off into the next episode.
Oh, yeah.
But thanks everyone for listening. Thanks Deonte for showing up and watching some One Piece with me and getting into some talking some tales.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, we'll see you all in the next one. Keep your eyes out for the next one. Also, watch our other ones. We there's been a very long period of time between us recording these, but we're back into it, so we're gonna be trying to get through as much of One Piece as we can, and hope you enjoy it. Bye.
Bye.